You know how people say they'd do anything for their brother? Yeah, that used to be me. I would have taken a punch, a bullet, hell, even a second helping of our mom's tuna casserole for Darren. My name's Max. I'm 34 years old. I live in Galesburg, Illinois, and I coach varsity baseball at the high school I graduated from. Feels like life just kind of looped back around. Darren's my older brother, by 4 years, which meant when I was a kid, he was basically a god. He taught me how to ride a bike, how to throw a curveball, and how to shave, even though he nicked his chin 3 times trying to show me. He was always that guy, the one people listened to, respected, looked up to. When I started dating Jenna in college, Darren was the first one I introduced her to. He grilled her for 20 minutes straight, then told me later, "You found a good one. Don't mess it up." Coming from Darren, that was like getting knighted. He welcomed Jenna into the family like she was his own sister. When they had their first kid, we were in the delivery room waiting area. Darren came out beaming, holding baby pictures, and I swear he handed me one and said, "Uncle Max has diaper duty next week." He made me feel like I belonged in every chapter of his life. We always talked about raising kids together. You know, cousins being best friends, little league games, Sunday BBQs. That was the dream. Only, it didn't work out like that. Jenna and I started trying for a baby right after our second anniversary. That was 7 years ago. At first, we laughed about it, figured we'd be pregnant in a month. But month after month, nothing. We went through the whole checklist. Doctors, tests, IVF, rinse and repeat. Meanwhile, Darren and Leah popped out kids like clockwork, 3 of them in 6 years. All healthy, all beautiful. They'd announce each pregnancy like it was a winning lottery ticket. "Looks like we're fertile again," Darren joked once, nudging me with his elbow. I laughed along, but something clenched in my chest. At first, Darren was supportive. He'd ask about our appointments, send a quick, thinking of you text after failed rounds. But somewhere along the way, that changed. It started small, fewer calls, shorter visits. During family dinners, he stopped asking how we were doing. He'd talk about his kids' soccer tournaments and school projects while avoiding eye contact with me entirely. When I brought up another failed IVF cycle, he'd mumble, "That sucks, man," then change the subject. I told myself he was just busy. 3 kids will do that. But the distance kept growing. I remember one Thanksgiving, Jenna had just gotten a call from her OB that confirmed yet another failed transfer. She was barely holding it together, eyes glassy the whole evening. I stepped outside to get some air, and Darren followed. "You all right?" he asked, handing me a beer. I shrugged. "Just tired, man. It's been a rough year." He took a sip, then said, "Maybe you guys should stop trying so hard. Sometimes it's just not in the cards, you know?" I looked at him, waiting for a smirk, some kind of punchline. But he just kept sipping like it was the most reasonable advice in the world. I didn't respond. I couldn't. That was the moment something shifted. A crack in the foundation. I used to think nothing could break the bond we had. Turns out, some things don't break. They just drift. And I didn't even see it until we were already too far apart. It's hard to explain what it feels like when a doctor tells you to stop hoping. We sat in that beige office, 3rd floor, end of the hallway, walls lined with outdated baby posters. While Dr. Henley clicked through Jenna's chart, her expression unreadable. She looked up and said it so gently, I almost didn't register the meaning right away. "I think it's time to consider other paths to parenthood." Other paths. It was her way of telling us we'd reached the end of the road. Jenna stared at the floor. I stared at the wall behind the doctor's head. We didn't speak on the elevator ride down. In the parking lot, I unlocked the car, climbed in, and waited until I saw Jenna's shoulders shaking beside me. That was the 5th IVF cycle. After 3 years of IUI. After surgeries. After hormone shots and mood swings and months of schedule-stretching sex that stopped feeling like intimacy and started feeling like a job. I held Jenna's hand the whole drive home, but I couldn't stop hearing that sentence in my head. It echoed the way Darren's voice had the weekend before when he'd laughed at Thanksgiving dinner and said, "Still trying? Man, maybe it's just not meant to be." He said it right over mashed potatoes. Everyone chuckled, except me and Jenna. And that wasn't the first time. Last Christmas, when I passed on a second round of beers, Darren clapped my shoulder and said, "What? Cutting back to save for diapers you'll never need." He grinned. Everyone laughed, even my mom. I remember Jenna stepping away to check on dessert while wiping under her eye. I let it slide. Again, because he was my brother. Because I didn't want to make it awkward. But the cracks were getting deeper. Darren didn't just ignore our pain. He treated it like a punchline. Like our grief was some quirky phase he was allowed to comment on. Then came our parents' anniversary party. It was supposed to be a celebration. 40 years married. We rented out a banquet room at a nice place downtown. White tablecloths, champagne flutes, the whole thing. Darren gave a toast about how love takes work and compromise. People clapped. I clapped too. I guess I still wanted to believe we were a family. Later, I stepped out to the balcony for a minute. Just needed some air. Darren followed. "You all right?" he asked. I nodded. "Just tired." He took a sip of his drink. "Look, man, I gotta be honest. It's exhausting how everything always circles back to your fertility drama. Every family event turns into a sympathy hour for Max and Jenna." I blinked. "What?" "I'm just saying," he shrugged. "You guys suck all the oxygen out of the room lately. Everyone's walking on eggshells. Maybe it's time to move on, you know? Focus on your job. Coach something. Win a trophy. You think this is about attention? I asked quietly. He smirked. Come on, you're not the only people dealing with hard stuff. Behind us, the door creaked open. I'm sorry, what did you just say? Jenna's voice was sharp, clear. Darren turned. Oh, I didn't mean. You absolutely meant it. She stepped forward, hands trembling. You think we want to be pitted? That this is fun for us? You arrogant. He held up his hands. Calm down. Don't tell her to calm down. I snapped. The look he gave me then, smug, half shrugging, like he'd just won some invisible argument, made something inside me go cold. Jenna turned and walked away. I followed. Darren didn't. We didn't speak after that night. Not once. The silence stretched into weeks, then months. Eventually, people started choosing sides. Cousin Paul texted to say he didn't want to get involved. Aunt Roberta sent a group message about how families should forgive each other. But Mom didn't say much. And Dad just looked tired the next time we saw him. It was weird. Like Darren's words had finally ripped away the last bit of protection I thought being brothers gave us. And all I could think was, if this was what family looked like, maybe we'd been fooling ourselves all along. I didn't believe it at first. Honestly, I thought Jenna was messing with me. It was a Tuesday morning in February, freezing outside, and I was packing my gym bag when she walked into the kitchen, holding a pregnancy test like it was a live grenade. Her face was pale, her lips pressed tight, eyes wide. Max, she whispered. It's positive. I froze, one hand still gripping a pair of socks. What? She held it out again. I took 3. All the same. My first thought was that the tests were expired. My second thought was that it was some chemical fluke. But when we went to the doctor the next day and saw that little flickering heartbeat on the monitor, real and fast and impossible, I swear I forgot how to breathe. Naturally, after 7 years of nothing, this baby came naturally. We didn't tell anyone. Not at first. We just held it close, like a secret that would break if we said it out loud too many times. Those first few weeks, Jenna would wake up in the middle of the night just to check if she was still pregnant. I'd hear her in the bathroom, softly whispering, "Still here," as she touched her stomach. We made a deal. No announcements until we got past 12 weeks. No buying anything. No sharing. Not even with our parents. But around week 10, we told my mom. Jenna cried through the whole conversation. My mom cried too. She held both of us and said, "I always believed it would happen." The next day, the whole family knew. My mom couldn't help herself. And that's when Darren found out. He didn't call, didn't text, just sent a short reply to the family group chat. Congrats, I guess. Weird timing with Leah expecting again. That was it. No smile emoji. No follow-up. Leah was 3 months pregnant with their 4th. We didn't even know yet. A few days later, at a family barbecue my parents hosted, Darren cornered me by the grill while I was flipping burgers. He was holding a beer, his smile tight. "So, what's the plan?" he asked. "Gonna name the baby Miracle so everyone knows how special she is?" I didn't laugh. He took a swig, just saying, "You didn't have to turn it into a whole show. Everyone's acting like no one's ever had a baby before." I stared at him. "You think we planned this?" He shrugged. "Timing's a little convenient. Kind of steals Leah's thunder, don't you think?" That was the moment I knew something had changed in him. Or maybe something had always been there, and I just refused to see it. Jealousy, resentment, whatever it was, it felt dark and bitter and pointed straight at me. Later that night, Jenna curled up on the couch, shaking, not crying exactly, just quiet and trembling like her skin couldn't contain the hurt anymore. "I don't want him near our baby," she whispered. "Okay," I said. We cut him off after that. No contact, no explanations, just space. Some of the family tried to smooth things over. My aunt texted, "He didn't mean it. He's just under pressure." A cousin called and said we needed to be the bigger people. But I wasn't interested in being big anymore. I was just trying to protect what little we had finally been given. It started with a Facebook message. Clara, my cousin on our dad's side. We weren't close. Not really. More like holiday acquaintances, but we'd always gotten along. She was kind, quiet, the kind of person who never stirred up drama. Until she did. "Hey Max, I know things have been rough between you and Darren, but I need to tell you something. It's about what he said to me last year. I haven't told anyone. I think I was too embarrassed." I messaged her back right away, told her to call me. She did. 10 minutes later, I was pacing my backyard in the cold, phone pressed to my ear, trying to wrap my head around what I was hearing. Clara had miscarried at 12 weeks last summer. Darren was one of the first people she saw after the hospital. They were at a barbecue. Clara was still tender, emotionally and physically. He pulled her aside and said, "You need to stop milking this. It wasn't even a real baby yet." Word for word. I stopped walking. "You're serious?" "I didn't want to start anything," Clara said, her voice trembling. "But then I heard what he said to Jenna. And you. And I realized, maybe I'm not the only one." I thanked her. We talked for a while longer. And when we hung up, I just stood there staring at the frost-covered grass, feeling like someone had just opened a door I didn't know existed. That night, I pulled up old texts. I'd kept everything. Messages from Darren over the years that felt off. Things I'd brushed off as bad jokes or weird moments. Jokes about Jenna's biological clock. Comments about how real men don't have fertility problems. Stuff he said that made me feel like crap, but I never called him on. I printed them. Every single one. 2 days later, I sat down with my parents. Just the 3 of us. Jenna stayed home. She didn't ask me to, but I knew she couldn't stomach another "just let it go" speech. I brought the printouts. I brought Clara's message. And I brought the part of me that had stopped caring whether this made things awkward. Mom didn't speak for a long time. She just sat there with her hand over her mouth, staring at the messages like she was seeing Darren for the first time. Dad looked tired, angry, quiet in a way I hadn't seen since our grandfather's funeral. Finally, Mom looked at me and said, "I'm sorry, Max. I didn't know." Dad nodded. "This is disgraceful. There's no excuse for it." I didn't cry. I didn't feel relief. Just a weird stillness, like I'd been holding something heavy for years and only now realized how much it weighed. After that, things shifted. Mom stopped asking me to just call your brother. Dad started sending more check-ins, short texts that ended with things like, "Proud of you," and "You're doing the right thing." I didn't say much in return, but it meant something. Darren, on the other hand, was busy waging his own little war. He started posting cryptic stuff online, status updates about fake people and family snakes. He called a few of our cousins, trying to convince them I was blowing things out of proportion, that Jenna had brainwashed me. He even told one aunt I was jealous of his full life. But the thing was, people weren't buying it anymore. Clara had started quietly talking. So did another cousin, Lisa, who said Darren once told her postpartum depression was just being dramatic. Leah's sister said he used to mock Leah's anxiety in front of friends. The story started piling up. And just like that, the narrative shifted. It wasn't Max versus Darren anymore. It was Max finally shining a light on something people had been too afraid to speak about. I didn't feel vindicated. It wasn't a victory lap, but for the first time, I didn't feel alone in it. And that was enough to keep going. The night started out like it was supposed to, a celebration. It was my sister Erin's work promotion party, hosted at this little venue downtown, the kind with string lights and overpriced appetizers. Jenna and I showed up early. She was about 7 months pregnant by then, her belly finally starting to show beneath her wrap dress. She looked beautiful and nervous. "I'll stay near the wall," she whispered. Low drama, low exposure. We both knew what she meant. Darren had RSVP'd. At that point, Jenna hadn't been in the same room with him since the barbecue blow-up. I hadn't spoken to him either. Not a text, not a call. But this wasn't our event. This was Erin's night. We were here for her. Darren showed up 40 minutes late and already smelled like bourbon. He walked in alone. No Leah, no kids, no smile. Just that uneven swagger he'd developed in the last year. Like the world owed him space wherever he went. His face was flushed and shiny, and he didn't even bother scanning the room. He headed straight for the bar. I tried to ignore him. So did Jenna. But he didn't want to be ignored. It started with a toast. Aaron had just finished thanking everyone, raising a glass, when Darren clinked his beer bottle against a nearby chair and said, loudly, "Let's hear it for the people who pretend to be family when it suits them." Awkward laughter rippled through the room. Aaron froze mid-sip. Jenna gripped my wrist under the table. I stood up slowly. "Don't do this." Darren turned. "Oh, look who found his voice. Thought you'd keep hiding behind your wife forever." "Darren," Dad warned from a few chairs down. He took a step toward me, weaving slightly. "You told everyone I'm some kind of monster. That I bullied you, bullied Clara, manipulated Leah. You made me the villain. You made yourself that," I said, quiet but firm. "Oh, please," he slurred. "I have 3 kids, Max. You think anyone's buying the narrative that I'm jealous of you?" I didn't respond. Neither did anyone else. The silence was worse than shouting. He took another step. "You want people to forget who you used to be? I made you, taught you everything. Now you're acting like I'm toxic?" "Darren," Dad said again, standing this time. "Stop." But Darren didn't stop. He turned to Jenna, eyes glassy. "And you play the victim better than anyone. You finally get pregnant and act like it's the second coming." Jenna stood up. "I'm leaving." And that's when he shoved me. It wasn't hard enough to knock me over. Just enough to say, "I'm not done with you." His hand hit my shoulder, and I stumbled back a step, fists clenched. That's when Dad stepped between us. I'll never forget the look on his face. Not angry, not scared. Just finished. "Get out," Dad said. "What?" "You heard me," he said. "Leave. Now." Darren stared at him for a second, like he was waiting for someone else to speak up. No one did. He turned, grabbed his coat, nearly knocking over a folding chair, and stormed out. The door slammed. Everyone exhaled. That's when I noticed Jenna sitting again, one hand on her chest, the other gripping the table like it was holding her together. "I can't breathe right," she whispered. I helped her outside. Aaron called her doctor, just to be safe. Turned out it was an anxiety episode. Not labor, not contractions. But Jenna was rattled, shaking, pale. "I don't feel safe with him around," she said later, curled up on the couch at home. "Not for me, not for the baby." "I know," I told her. "He's done." That night, we made the decision. Darren would never meet our daughter, not unless he got real help, not unless he became someone worth knowing again. And deep down, I already knew that probably wasn't going to happen. I hadn't heard from Leah in over a year. So when I saw her name pop up on my phone, no message, just a missed call, I stared at it like it might be a mistake. 10 minutes later, it rang again. Same name. This time, I picked up. Her voice was quiet, brittle. "Max, can we talk?" I stepped into the garage, shut the door behind me. "Yeah, what's going on?" "I left him," she said. My breath caught. "You what?" "I took the kids and went to my sister's. I filed for separation this morning." I didn't say anything right away, just leaned against the workbench, trying to process what that meant. He's been drinking again, she continued. He's been worse. Loud, unpredictable, angry, not just with me, with the kids, throwing things, screaming over nothing. Her voice cracked then. The boys are scared of him. I closed my eyes. The image hit me harder than I expected. Darren's sons, huddled behind a bedroom door, while their father raged about dirty dishes or a backpack on the floor. I'm sorry, I said uselessly. I should have said something sooner, she whispered, but I kept hoping he'd fix it, that it was just a rough patch. I was wrong. We talked for almost an hour. About things she hadn't shared with anyone. How Darren would belittle her in front of friends. How he called her lazy when she asked for help with the kids. How he told her no one else would ever put up with her. I listened. I believed her. Near the end of the call, her voice changed. More careful. There's one more thing, she said. I filed for temporary custody. My lawyer says having a statement from someone who's seen Darren's behavior firsthand would help. A lot, especially from family. I sat down slowly. You want me to write something? I wouldn't ask if it wasn't about the kids, she said quickly. I know it puts you in a weird position, but if I don't get custody, he gets unsupervised weekends. And I don't trust what he'd do if no one was watching. I felt sick, not because I doubted her, because I didn't. I'll talk to Jenna, I said. Later that night, I told Jenna everything. She didn't even hesitate. Write it, she said. We both know who he is now. So I did. I wrote about the night he shoved me, about the time he screamed at Jenna, about the drinking, the manipulation, the way he turned family into a weapon. I sent it to Leah's attorney the next day. She replied with a short message. Thank you. You just made a difference for those boys. But the weight of it lingered. I never thought I'd be the one testifying, even indirectly, against my own brother in a custody battle. Never thought I'd be part of dismantling his family. But then again, Darren did that all by himself. We didn't visit Leah. We didn't get involved beyond the statement. I told her that gently, not because I didn't care, but because we needed space. Jenna was in her last month of pregnancy. Every ounce of peace mattered now, helping meant drawing a line, protecting her kids, protecting ours, and protecting ourselves from getting dragged back into the wreckage he left behind. Our daughter had been home for just 4 days. Her name was Lila, 6 pounds, 8 ounces, with a surprisingly full head of dark hair and lungs that could wake the dead. Jenna and I had barely slept, living in a haze of feedings, diapers, and that weird, beautiful panic that comes with new parenthood. We were exhausted. We were in love. We were finally whole. So when someone started banging on our front door at 10:43 p.m., the last name I expected, or maybe the one I feared the most, was Darren. He wasn't knocking. He was pounding, fists slamming hard and fast, like he was trying to break the door down. Open the damn door, Max. I froze halfway down the hallway. Jenna appeared in the doorway behind me, holding Lila to her chest. Her face went pale. Is that him? She whispered. The banging got louder. Come on. I know you're in there. Let me see my niece. Lila stirred in Jenna's arms and let out a sharp, startled cry. Jenna flinched like she'd been hit. I stepped toward the door, stopped short. Through the frosted glass, I saw Darren's silhouette, unsteady, broad, swaying. He was drunk. Again, I didn't open the door. I locked it. Then I called the police. He kept yelling, "This is my family too. You don't get to shut me out." He kicked the bottom of the door once, hard enough that the whole frame rattled, and then stumbled backward. The porch light caught his face, and even from behind the curtain, I could see the mess. Red eyes, slack mouth, a smear of something dark on his shirt. Jenna had retreated to Lila's room, rocking our screaming newborn in the corner. I could hear her breathing from the hallway, short, panicked gasps, trying to stay calm, trying to soothe the baby, trying to hold it together. The dispatcher on the phone asked if we were safe. I said yes, but I wasn't sure if it was true. 2 minutes later, Darren was gone. He must have heard the sirens. Or maybe he finally realized what he'd done. Either way, by the time the cruiser pulled into the driveway, the porch was empty. The officer took our statements, offered to send someone by for extra patrol, asked if we wanted to press charges. We said no for now, but the next morning, I drove straight to the courthouse and filed for a restraining order. Enough was enough. Jenna sat on the couch holding Lila while I filled out the paperwork. Her hands were trembling. I don't feel safe here, she said. I mean, not really. I know, I said. Me neither. We started looking at new houses that afternoon, somewhere quieter, farther, somewhere Darren wouldn't know about. We also found a therapist, for both of us, because the truth was, Darren hadn't just scared us. He'd broken something. The night he came to our door like that, slurring, pounding, yelling about what he thought he was owed, he shattered the last illusion that there was still a line he wouldn't cross. This wasn't about a sibling rivalry anymore. It wasn't even about the baby. It was about control, rage, and whatever Darren was trying to chase at the bottom of a bottle. I never wanted to keep my child from her family. But when someone becomes a threat, even if they share your blood, you don't invite them in. You bolt the door. You protect your home. And you start over, from scratch, if you have to. It's strange how quiet peace can be. Most days now are filled with diapers and bottles, not arguments. Lila wakes up screaming at 3 a.m., but even in my exhaustion, I hold her and think, this is what we prayed for. Her hair smells like baby shampoo, and sleep. Her fingers curl tight around mine like she's afraid I'll vanish if she lets go. She doesn't know the world she was born into. Not yet. She doesn't know the chaos we had to walk through to make this little life for her. And Jenna and I? We're still figuring it out one breath at a time. We started therapy 2 weeks after the restraining order was approved. Jenna cried through most of the first session. I didn't say much until the therapist asked what we needed to feel safe. That word, safe, hit me harder than I expected. I want my daughter to grow up without fear, I said. It's why we finally pulled the trigger on the move. New neighborhood, different part of town, quieter streets, a fenced yard, and a camera on the porch. It wasn't about running. It was about starting clean. My parents came by once a week to help. My mom brought casseroles. My dad spent 2 Saturdays assembling nursery furniture we'd already put together, just so he could feel useful. They never talked about Darren anymore. They didn't have to. One morning, about a month after Lila's birth, I walked outside and found a letter in our mailbox. No return address. Just my name on the front in familiar handwriting. I didn't open it. I didn't even bring it inside. I held it between 2 fingers like it was something toxic, walked it straight to the kitchen trash, and buried it under a bag of old coffee grounds. Then I called the police and reported the violation. That evening, Jenna asked if I was okay. I nodded. He left a letter. Her face tightened. Did you read it? No, I said. I don't want to give him the space in my head. We sat there in the nursery, the 3 of us, while Lila slept in her bassinet. The room glowed in soft yellow light, the kind you don't notice until you realize how much you needed it. Jenna rested her head on my shoulder. He doesn't get to take this from us, she whispered. And he wouldn't. I used to think cutting ties with Darren would feel like failure, like giving up on something sacred. But now, I think it was the most loving thing I could have done, for myself, for Jenna, for Lila. Some people grow in the soil they were given. Others have to break the pot and start over. I still get texts from extended family trying to play peacemaker. He's not well, they say. He misses you. I don't reply anymore. I've made peace with the silence. Because peace, as it turns out, isn't the absence of pain. It's the presence of boundaries. It's choosing not to pass down wounds disguised as tradition. Someday, Lila will ask about my brother. And when she does, I'll tell her the truth. Not all of it, just enough. I'll tell her we came from a hard place, but we built something softer, and we chose love anyway.